Today we're going to be taking what we've learned about scenes and storytelling and apply it to our own stories in practice. Today we are going to be writing a scene, and this is a particular scene that we have chosen. It's the getting back together or the makeup scene in rom-coms, and most films actually have this kind of scene in them where the band tends to break up and then they have to come back together, or they have to reform, or they have to put away their differences and get back onto their main objective. So we're going to be taking a couple of characters. We're going to go somewhat the rom-com style, but not quite. We're going to go brother and sister who have kind of parted ways and are trying to get back together and come together to work on a project that they have tried to work on in the past and have failed at doing so. First thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out who our characters are, and let's start with naming them. So, like I said, brother and sister. I am terrible with names, so we're going to go with Bert, Emily. I'm thinking that we make Emily the main character of this story, or at least this scene right here. We will say that she's the one who needs to push the pace and push the envelope in this particular scene of getting people back together. The next thing we have to do, obviously, is figure out why they are not together. In my mind, the reason that Emily might not want to be in the project with Bert is something having to do with pride. Let's go with the oldest one in the book. Bert is the one who is kind of trying to be there for her, but Emily is seeing it as he doesn't believe that she can do this on her own. The next thing we have to do is figure out what was the thing that caused the rift between Emily and Bert. We have to figure out what Emily did. Since she is the main character, we want her to be the one who kind of makes the decisions that cause things to go from bad to worse, and the worst you could possibly be with siblings specifically is on no speaking terms, right? So in order to figure out what caused the rift, we have to figure out what this project is. And of course, we're in a YouTube video, so let's use a YouTube video. Why don't we do that? Let's make it very topical, and let's just think that they were trying to come up with the best YouTube video that will get all the views. And of course, the last YouTube video that they tried, Bert was unintentionally caused some kind of failure within that video. Emily, after seeing the failure of said YouTube video, had to put the blame on someone, and being so prideful that she couldn't see that it was possibly her fault, or possibly just a bad idea, which might have been her part of the process of making said YouTube video. Maybe she was the idea person and Bert was kind of more the execution person. So she, being so prideful, pawns all of the blame off onto Bert, saying that, you know, he didn't execute her vision well, and thus now we have this rift in which we have the reason for the rift is the unintentional failure of a YouTube video, which is the project that they're trying to work on, and now we have the cause for this scene to happen. They need some way to get back together, and there has to be some kind of timeline or something that is a necessity for them to get back together. So possibly it's the end of the year, or there's a competition. Perhaps there's a competition for a video that is going to be uploaded to YouTube, and they want to enter into this competition. That way they can get more recognition for their channel or whatever. And thus we have some kind of deadline that they have to hit within the next, let's say, 24 hours. How about that? Maybe it's a 24-hour competition, perhaps even like a short film competition where they have to formulate the idea and execute the idea within 24 hours and upload it so that they can enter and potentially win the eyes of some corporate or something. We need a reason for him to be in the same vicinity as her. I'm thinking that for the reason why he would be there is perhaps when she and him had their falling out. He left something behind. Maybe since they were working together, maybe he has another job that he's kind of thinking of doing, and so he's going to move on to this other job. However, some of his equipment is back maybe at their studio or at their place in which they have previously filmed, which is also where her equipment is. And so she's going there to try to get her equipment for this project, still wondering who she's going to get to help her with the project, and he's going there so that he can take his stuff and move on because he thinks that she just clearly doesn't want to work with him anymore. So my peanut gallery has given me the wonderful idea. I came up with the idea of the storage shed where they would store all of their equipment, right? Their kit, their camera gear, their lighting kit, and so on and so forth. Like I said, my peanut gallery came up with the cool idea of the storage shed being at her place. And so maybe it's in the back of her place, in the backyard or something like that. And so Bert shows up and is rummaging through the storage shed, and she would enter the scene with a baseball bat in order to kind of find out who's messing around with my stuff. That's a lot of expensive stuff. I can't just, I'm not going to wait for the cops. I'm going to take matters into my own hands. She's that kind of person. And so that's kind of how we would enter the scene, immediately starting with her being on edge as a result of what he is doing. And then here she can stand outside of the shed as he is inside the shed rummaging around. So if you would imagine with me, you don't see him, you just kind of see, you would cut from inside the shed where you do see him, and then you cut to outside where she rounds the corner and she doesn't see him. So she just kind of like points the bat at the shed, and then she calls her shot where she yells at him, if you don't come out of here with your hands up, I'm gonna break them, or something like that. And he just says, I kind of need these to write, or something like that. Recognizing her brother's voice, Emily would kind of let her guard come down and just be like, what are you doing here? I just thought of this. Maybe this could be a part of the scene, but perhaps he is getting this equipment because he was going to be a part of a different group for this this challenge. So now you have another layer of conflict where not only is he just going to take some equipment that she might need for the project, but also he's going to take it for the very same project, just under a different name, or with a different partner, potentially. He says, maybe I'm getting my stuff. I found another group. So she would approach the shed and he would go back to gathering his equipment, and she would kind of accusingly ask him, like, what other group? Emily, who is so prideful, when Emily thinks about other people doing the same thing that she's doing, especially for a competition, she now takes it as that is an antagonist. Let's go with Austin's group. And then she would kind of like take that as an offense towards her. You would rather work with Austin than me. And then that's when he can come back with something like, you kicked me out of the group. Once Bert would kind of throw the fact that she kicked him out of the group back into her face and give her that check of reality, I think this is kind of where we start to show Emily understanding that she does need a group. Instead of just flat out, saying something like, well, I need you, can you help me? Instead of asking, maybe she should be more assertive and try to tell him, and try to guilt trip him back by saying something like, well, I'm your sister, you should help me first, or something like that. I realize that kind of it's still combated by the fact that she did kick him out, but it starts to lay the groundwork for her actually asking him. He could be the one to be like, no, ask me, like, be a human being and just ask me to be a part of your project, and I will consider it, that kind of a situation. So I have her saying that you should still help me first, and then his response would be, you didn't want my help, and then she would kind of go after the equipment, right? At least leave me the equipment. And this is where Bert would come back with, I need the equipment. That's the very reason I'm taking it, for the project, right? And this is kind of where she would kind of say, I need the help. I need all the help I can get, or with this project. And that's kind of where he should say, I mean, then just ask. She would respond with something like, I am asking. He would kind of come back with all of, our natural response, which would be like, dude, this is not asking. You're straight up telling me either help me or leave me the equipment. Like, that's giving me an ultimatum, and it's not really giving, asking for help. And it's not in a malicious way. It's not in a way where he wants her to fail. It is in a way where he wants her to learn. He would see the events that transpired before this in the story, where she had just continued to act this way and not learned from her mistakes, no matter how much of a failure they turned out to be. Whether or not they were a failure or a success, she kind of always has acted like this. The only way that he would see and realize for her to really understand what she's doing wrong and how she needs to change is to be the person to finally say no to her. So after asking or telling him to leave the equipment, he would respond with, I need it for the project, and she would obviously say, I need it more. Not just two, but I need it more, because she understands that if she doesn't have everything at her disposal, then she can't do this project. Having that conversation, having all of his, the things that he would like to say in this moment about how she has been, about being such a prideful person, by responding with just a simple kind of response in then ask, just to me feels like it really cuts deep. You don't have to say a million words when you can just use two. She would respond with the way I said before, which is, this is me asking. And I put in bold "is" because I really want to make sure that the reader gets the understanding that that is, that's kind of what she's getting at. That's the most important word in this this line of dialogue. Bert would then respond with his then, and this is a no. Like, the first time, potentially, other than like the failures that she has encountered with previous projects being rejected, or just not finding the success that they wanted, the no's haven't come from someone that she respects on a level, right? And so him giving her that no is a real kind of at least it should be that gut check where she's has to come up with a different approach. And right here is something that I want to change. I want to do to change the pacing of this scene, because up until this point, it's been back and forth before a bit, and so the pacing has kind of been the same, where it's actually line response, right? So I want to take the time to kind of reset our pacing and let the idea that he is presenting to her kind of settle into her mind, right? Because it's not just, or at least I don't want it to be just, this is a no. Like, I don't want it to be surface level. I want him to be saying, you have to change what you're doing and what you're saying in order to get the yes. It's not just the fact that I'm telling you no. I want it to resonate with her that he is not simply saying no. He is saying, you need to learn how to get the yes. So after the beat, we're going to have Emily setting down the bat. And this, personally, is just my way of kind of showing that she's starting, at least, to understand that she needs to kind of be less hostile and less abrupt and less blunt in the way she's dealing with at least Bert for right now. So just a visual representation of her kind of putting away something that she is familiar with, if that makes sense. Um, and then she would go in and kind of forgetting about, like, she almost not forgets, but she doesn't address the initial no. She addresses why Austin. And this is a point that I think that we can have um, Emily start to, her dialogue start to kind of give us that extension of the fact that she just put down the bet of, now this is her first question since finding out that, or since asking about the other group um, nearly a page before. So now she's kind of back in that trying to understand. And so Bert would simply respond by saying he respects me, kind of giving her another dig at the fact that she has not treated him very well, at least over the course of this story. And if she did blame him for the failure of their past project, I mean, that's not much respect they're given either. So then she would kind of go back into defense mode and start to say that she didn't, but just simply having him kind of roll his eyes at like her trying to defend against that statement, I think is a great way of her just kind of seeing, he's not going to take this anymore. Like, he's already started to say no, and me trying to lie about this is just not going to work. And so he would kind of come back. He would roll his eyes to kind of cut her sentence off in the middle, and he would come back to her with, "You still treat me like you gotta hold my hand across the street," and it's like, I think at that point she's going to try to, use her sarcasm in that in response to that, where she could say, cars move fast or something like that. And that is where he is going to come back and kind of respond with, "Yeah, every time I make a point you try to undermine it." And that is something, that is a sign that you don't respect the person, or at least that is going to be the sign that Emily still doesn't quite respect him. So after he calls her out on how she is still undermining him, I think she would respond with something to try to defend that as well, where she's kind of like, "That's just who I am. That's my humor. That's kind of how I've always been." And that's where, in these scenes in particular, it is not, it's not the, you obviously always try to want to have characters not say the obvious. You want them to lie or to say things without really saying them. But in select scenes and select instances, it is acceptable for some characters to state the obvious, right? And this is where Bert, kind of having seen that all other ways of telling Emily that she needs to change, finally coming to the last possible way of saying it, then maybe you gotta change. And this is kind of where we want to throw the last straw at Emily, where Bert zips up a couple of bags. He's finished packing all of his stuff and he's about to leave. And so this is where she has to throw that Hail Mary and try to rectify the situation. And so she would kind of stop him, and it would be, I kind of almost think of it like the Fonz, where he would never say "I love you," and kind of treating Emily in that same vein, where she would never say "I'm sorry" until this point. And so it's tough for her to get it out, which is why I have in here, she kind of started with "wait" and then "I," and she stops herself and really has to like work up the gumption to actually finish that statement and apologize for how she has been. So with her finally getting to the crux of this scene, other than to set up the next scene, there is no purpose to staying in this scene. So with simply, I'm sorry, we're going to have Bert set the 2 bags down and then set us up for the following sequence of scenes, which would presumably be them trying to work on this project, right? So he's just going to set the bags down and say, I've got to let Austin know. That way we have, just something like that to kind of give us the little bit of resolution to the whole, the Austin mini subplot that we have going on throughout this scene. And then that is where we would cut to the next scene. So hopefully you guys can see how, like, we try to enter the scene with drama and try to keep it going, and then adding Austin and the fact that Bert is going with another project is not just to like pile on to Emily, but it's also to give just some more drama and to give Bert a reason for going to the storage place and getting his equipment. And so it puts them at odds again, because if she doesn't have the equipment, she can't do everything she wants with the project, and he clearly needs the equipment for Austin's part of the project, or Austin's project. So just adding things like that, and then really bringing your main character down in this scene, because of the fact that we gave her like the primary flaw of pride, right? In order to bring a prideful person down, they kind of do have to be taken all the way down to rock bottom, or taken all the way down as low as they can be within this scene, before things start to turn around and before she kind of finally gives in and gives the apology and starts to see the error of her ways. It just makes sense that Bert would kind of be the one who is fed up with it, and really has to tell her to her face. That's why some of this is on the nose. Now, honestly, like I said before, coming back to this 2 years later, I'd probably do it much differently, just like you would probably do it much differently. So I just wanted to show what it's kind of like to, one, set up a scene, make sure you know your objectives within the scene before you start writing that scene, or else you can get halfway through and kind of get lost in trying to figure out where this needs to go. And so having a clear objective really helped me understand where I needed to go, what beats I needed to hit, and then stick that landing and make sure that I got out of the scene as fast as possible, or at least tried to. Honestly, part of me wants to just end the scene with him setting the bags down and cutting out that last line of, I've got to let Austin know. I think it would work either way, and it might even be better to just do that. That way we get out of the scene even faster. Because one thing you don't want to do with the scene that is primarily talking is stay in it too long. You can stay on beautiful shots all you want. You can stay on 2 characters who have wonderful, witty dialogue all you want. But if the scene's purpose has been done, then there really is no reason to continue with the scene. So, yeah, that's my version of the makeup / getting back together scene. Again, this is only my version, so it would be interesting to see what you guys do with it. If you want to do anything with that prompt. You want to do anything with Bert and Emily, totally, go ahead, do your thing. Yeah, but I just wanted to show you guys how having a plan for a scene is really important, and making sure you kind of stick to that plan. And for the most part, you just need to continue that drama until the drama is finished. And then once the drama's finished, move on. But yeah, that was my version of the get back together, or the makeup scene. So let me know what you think. Let me know all of the critiques that you have, because this is not perfect. I took a couple of hours making this video, so it was fun. I really enjoy it. I really kind of like these practice things, and I think that it makes me understand and really focus in on what's important, making sure I know the purpose and sticking to that purpose. I'm sure I meandered a little bit too far, and I'm sure that, again, in 2 years I'd come back and edit this and see that, wow, I did something stupid there and there and there. But anyway, That's my version of it. Want to know what you guys think of this, and yeah, just make sure you always have your purpose in mind with your scene, and your scenes will flow much more naturally.